retail scenario, plus other inputs that I've got from my associations with the retailers in the industries, especially the Bumiputera Retailers organizations. So without much ado, I would like to open up with regards to this topic that has been tasked to me to discuss with all of you. And I hope you all will be able to take some inputs and lessons into what is currently happening in as far as the retail scenario currently in Malaysia. I have two objectives to share with you all for today's webinar seminar. One is to share my experience facing the retail industries in the current situation. And for this, I will be using quite a number of data that I've abstracted from various sources like Euromonitor, like survey groups or the MRA, Malaysian Retailers Associations, and Retailers Organizations, and also from the Department of Statistics in Malaysia to share some of these data for our informations. And secondly, after looking at the scenario that currently being faced by our retail outlets at the current moment, I would then try to analyze the future outlook on the new retail frontier, which I've abstracted from a research agency with regards to the low-touch economy, which I will expand towards the end of this webinar. So moving forward, let's try and look at what happens in as far as the market is concerned. I've shared two slides just to show what's going on with regards to some of the big retailers in our market. This one on your left is basically with regards to the Robinsons announcements of their closure recently, starting from Singapore, and then it goes into Malaysia. These are one of the many outlets that has announced the closure with regards to this pandemic crisis in Malaysia. And in the Itusan Digital, they have indicated sektor runcit terjejas and quite a number of it. And if I relate this to the international scenario, as per what Euromonitor has what they call concluded in their research recently, they have said that internationally, we are talking about a situation where the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the retail sales to decline by 3.5%, equivalent to about $500 billion in as far as the world is concerned. And this is due to mainly the temporary closures of most of the retail outlets, and the weakened consumer demand, and thirdly, the increase in the cost of many of these retailers. And as a result, according to Euromonitor, a lot of customers are now turning towards e-commerce. But in Malaysia, by the statement made by our colleague in the Bumiputera Retailers Organizations, it has been dedicated by Datuk Amir Ali Maidin, the CEO of Maidin. We'll see that around 35 to 50% of the retail outlets seen a decline in footfall during the period of October and November. And with the introductions of the new what we call CMO or the PKPB, and this has resulted in a lot of what we call outlets taking steps to either reduce or to close their outlets. So another thing about what is happening in the retail scenario also, and as per what they call announced by the Bumiputera Retailers Organizations, that out of the total retail outlets of 450,000, it is expected that there is a possibility of a laying off of another 60,000 employees towards the end of the year. And this is mainly due to the current CMCO that we are facing, or PKPB, where I would say movements of the consumers or the populations are very limited. And this has resulted in a lot of reduction in the footfall of all the malls. So I would like now to move on to some data that I have extracted. This is from MRA with the Retail Group Malaysia, where you will see that in January and March, the decline in the retail growth is at 11.4%, minus 11.4%. It gets worse as it goes into the second quarter of this year of 30.9%. And this makes the overall first half of the year a decline in the retail scenario of minus 20.2%. This is the data that I have extracted from the Retail Group Malaysia, or MRA. We will share this to see and compare it with the data from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. Slightly different, but more or less towards the same situation. If we go by subsector, you will see that bulk of the declines are coming from three main subsectors, which is basically the department store for our first quarter of minus 17.5 to the second quarter of 62.3, and then the fashion and accessory sector from 30.4 to 44.2%, and the other specialty retailers from 17.9 to 40.9%. These subsectors are the most affected with regards to the current market scenarios. The one that's been less affected the so-called modern groceries, which is basically the supermarket and the hypermarket sectors, where the decline is hardly less than 10% in as far as the second quarter. And my experience as an advisor to 7-Eleven on their franchising situation, I find that in the convenience store, in fact, their sales to some of them have improved during this period, as more customers tend to frequent this convenience store for whatever reason for their purchases. So the impact towards the retailers is different depending on which subsectors you are in at the moment. So for modern groceries, yes, there's still light at the end of the tunnel, but for departmental store, fashion and accessories, and most other especially retailers, yes, the decline is quite substantial. Moving on, the survey, the Retail Group Malaysia has projected that the overall decline in the growth rate for this year is expected to be at minus 5.5%, which is to the tune of about 101 billion ringgit in as far as the market is concerned. And this is contributed by the result of these projections of the third quarter and fourth quarter, where projection for quarter will be a minus 3.5%, and projection for fourth quarter is minus 1.5%, making the total growth rate for the year, according to Retail Group Malaysia, at minus 5.5%. Now, if we move on and compare the statistics that has been that came up from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. This is the sales of wholesale and retail sales trade. I just want to highlight the month of September against October, where there is some improvement in as far as the sales value in the wholesale and retail sales is concerned, a positive here. And if you look at this third quarter result, from the second quarter of minus 23, third quarter has shown a positive of 32.1%. This is still also indicated that yes, there seems to be some improvement in as far as the retail scenario is concerned. This also from Department of Statistics with regards to the wholesale and retail trade, it's a positive Q3 result. So in as far as the government is concerned, there seems to be an uptick in as far as the retail, wholesale and retail sector is concerned towards the end of the year. But just to share with you some of the remarks or announcement made by the Bumiputera Retailers Organizations, they are complaining that that due to some inconsistency in the government's announcements on the SOP, it has, I would like to say, limit the consumers from coming or frequenting the malls. And this has resulted in towards the fourth quarter, they are expecting that the offtake on the retail scenario is going to suffer further. So they are requesting that the government revisit the SOP with regards to the population on the coming of the populations towards packed areas like malls, etc. So that there is an improvement in terms of the attitudes towards shopping by the population. Now, if I can share some of the reports that has come out from the research agency since March 18th, right? Most of the outlets have been closed because of the CMO by the government. And during the 6 weeks of closure, retailers have to bear 20.48 billion ringgit in terms of operational and staff costs. And of this amount, 14.31 billion of those costs is retailing operating costs, which includes rental of premises, HQ expenses, insurance, advertising and promotions, as well as repair and maintenance. And if we go further, another 6.18 billion is related to staff costs. What are these? It consists of things like salaries, wages, allowance, EPF, and so. So these are expenses that the employer has got to contain during this period of MCO. Now, MCO resulted in the closure of about 209,000 retailers, which accounts for 61% of total retail outlets. And this is equivalent to 63.3% of total retail sales during this period of closure. About 126,000 retail outlets remains open during this period, which is about 35.4% of retail turnover. And these are outlets, as I've mentioned earlier, about the modern grocery stores, like supermarket, hypermarket, mini market, convenience store, and pharmacy. These are the what you call outlets that seems to be able, all right, to I would say benefit from the current situation of the MCO. Now, sharing the data from MDEC or the Ministry of Cooperation and Entrepreneur Development, they have indicated that till date, since March 2020, there are altogether 50,269 SMEs that have folded. And of these, 9,675 folded during the period of March to June. 22,000 folded or shut down from June to September, and worse still, during the month of August, the highest number of shutdown of 17,800 of the SMEs, more than just retail, just SMEs, and not accounting the micro SMEs, which are worst affected, according to the Ministry of Cooperation and Entrepreneur Development. And then according to DOSM, for the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the reason why there's quite a number of labor dropouts because of this COVID-19 COVID-19 pandemic is because our industries is basically labor-based, labor-intensive, and not technology-intensive. And because of that, because of this impact, we will therefore be affected by a lot of labor issues because of this impact. And I would like now to go further into the situation of what can be done with the current situations. I'm taking something out from the research agency on this issue, and that is the concept of the low-touch economy. You can Google this out and find out about this, which I think most of you are already doing it, except that it is given a new, what they call name of the low-touch economy. Now, what actually is this low-touch economy? The low-touch economy is a phenomenon that is independent of face-to-face contact between customers and salespeople. The economy of little contact arises in the vacuum of remote transformation. So basically, as a result of these pandemic situations, the behaviors have changed, and therefore, this issue of less contact, less face-to-face has resulted in this new theory of the low-touch economy. Now, the low-touch economy model does not depend on direct contact between customers and sellers. It doesn't depend. And basically, I would say that it gives more empowerment to the customers in as far as this economy is concerned. Now, in the low-touch economy, the concept is basically digital first. And this is the new normal that I think all of us are very, very aware of. And almost all industries have adapted to remote working. Well, as you all are experiencing now, we are doing all this webinar through remote situations. And this has brought about an increase in productivity by home office and savings generated from leaner operations. This is basically some of the issues of the low-touch economy. And with regards to the low-touch economy, it is the least possible human contact with customers during sales and service processes. And this empower consumers through technological innovation. Therefore, in this low-touch economy, the emphasis would be on technology, and of course, digitalization will be the one that I think most of us has got to concentrate on. And customers are now looking for automated solution, and things like ARU, which is inaudible response units, are now sought after by consumers. And we are now going into what we call the virtual environment. So basically, these are the low-touch economy that I hope most retailers of today should start looking into and migrate themselves into this new era of low-touch model. Now, I would like to share some of the examples that has been given by this Board of Innovation, which is the research house that is doing this survey. And this is just 5 examples of how a few companies have pivoted away from their core business towards the new business, which I believe some of you are already in it or are looking into it. What do I mean by here? The first example is a company called Amidst Controls, where they have shifted from their normal snow cannon technology to convert it into a disinfection kind of unit that can be used during this COVID-19 pandemic. So this is moving into a new usage. The other one is intelligence industrial relay that what you call that track machines at industrial outlets, and they are moving to more of crowd control solutions for pharmaceuticals establishments and retailers. And the third one is an example from a retail company that were producing swimwear and has moved out into selling healthy food boxes via the e-commerce business. I'm just indicating this example just to see how companies has pivoted themselves into new items. I have more examples to share afterwards on this issue, but before that, I would like to share some slides with regards to the low-touch economy. This is one selected from the Board of Innovations, how the low-touch feedback loop looks like. So you will see that from here, because of the health measures taken by the authority, right, it has causes a disruption in the economy. And because of the disruption in the economy, it entails a shift in behavior. So we as retailers must understand this loop, right? Must understand this loop due to the pandemic and due to the action taken by the authority. It has disrupted the economic flow, and because of that, that has changed the behavior of our consumers. Now, this is the thing that we must realize it. Consumer behavior has changed, right? Consumer behavior has changed. They are not allowed to congregate. They are not allowed to have face-to-face contact, and they are discouraged, right, from getting together. A lot of physical and social distancing. Now, this is the one that all retailers has got to bear in mind in as far as the future is concerned, the behavioral shift of our consumer. Now, what do we do about it? I would like to share with you the slides projections that has been done by the researchers at the Board of Innovations. Very interesting slides to show where we will be in 2022, 3 years from now. If you see from this slide, we are at the moment at this period of social distancing, hygiene precautions, okay, travel restrictions. And this is at the height. And as we move into 2021, all right, you will see that the graph tapers down, but there will be some upsurge because of the virus not being contained. And with the advent and the discovery of the vaccine that we have read about recently, and with the ability of most authorities to have the vaccine in 2021, the graph will start to taper off towards end of 2021. And hopefully as we go into 2022, we hope that we will be back to normal. Now, why this graph is important for all of you to understand is how you plan your retail future, all right? This is next year, all right, where the vaccine will be available, but we are still in the new norm. Therefore, our industries in retail will be affected. We need to do something. We need to change the way we do our business. And hopefully, when it goes into 2022, things will look better, things will look different, and hopefully we will be back to normal. But will that normalcy be the same as what we have prior to 2020? This is something that I think all industries or retail industries has got to take note. It may not be the same, right? It may not be the same. You may have already changed towards a new platform, or you may have moved into a new direction in 2022. And this is where I would like to express my thoughts to all CEOs or decision makers to look what shall happen in 2022 when the vaccine takes effect and when life comes back to normal, but that normal is going to be the new normal. Then you will see that the low touch economy will define our life for the first 1 to 2 years at least, as I indicated, until 2022. And this is some indication of what needs to be done in as far as between now until 2022 is concerned. Now, I'll come to this part where I would like to share some of the examples of potential winners that has been indicated by the Board of Innovations that hopefully opens some of your mindset into what can be done to your organizations. Okay. Now, the first one is ByteDance, and I think all of you have, understand who ByteDance is. If you don't understand ByteDance, I'm sure you have heard of TikTok. And TikTok is a Chinese internet technology company based in Beijing. And as you know, as recently, there's been a controversy with the outgoing president of the United States banning TikTok in the United States, which until today, I think he's not able to do it. And what happens here, all right, is how TikTok has managed to use this pandemic situation to improve their business situation. Okay, and you are talking about in 2019 their revenue is 20 billion euro. They are now, I think, growing further than that. And this is how what they call TikTok utilize it. They have used their platform to, in fact, putting films into it, and of recently with their collaboration with the Guangxi Media Group in China, they brought in their blockbuster into their what they call TikTok and show the film where it was screened and have got thousands of 600 million of users, viewers looking into it. So this is how organization change what they call the directions to help improve their situation, which I believe some of you in your organization would already be planning on how to move forward into a new direction, but utilizing your existing base. Second, which I think can be applied to our situation here, is an e-commerce of Shopify. Here we have got Shopee, but here is Shopify, which is based in Canada, and how they support retailers to go low touch, right? How they support retailers to go low touch. And Shopify have enabled many of their retail store customers to shift, right, their sales online using what they call their own so-called pickup or delivery solutions. And according to Shopify, retailers who were forced to close their physical presence were able to make up 94% of the sales volume online that they had lost from this in-store, through the in-store transaction. So what is happening here is, this is a platform that allows, I would say, the SMEs, retailers, all right, to change, to move what they call their strategy into this new, what they call e-commerce. And Shopify is a platform that they have. And in Malaysia, I'm sure you all are already doing it. A lot of the SMEs, retailers have gone to Shopee, have gone to other what they call platform in order to market their product. So I would say this is an ongoing issue, and if you are not already there, please, all right, look into the already available platform to market your product. That is the what they call second example. The third example is a Panera Bread, and this is from California, USA, and how they manage to utilize technology of the low-touch economy to shift their strategy. by changing their distribution channels. And I think in our Malaysian context, you can see a lot of them doing that. This is just an overseas, what do you call, example, but local example, I'm sure we have seen a lot now with Uber, what do you call it, here in our country, plus other platforms. We have seen a lot of consumers getting their products through this new low-touch economy, which is, I would say, a situation like most retailers would be doing. Just to share with you my experience with 7-Eleven, even 7-Eleven is really looking into the situation of sending their goods, all right, through this platform to the customers instead of just waiting for the customers to come to the shop. And I'm sure you retailers that is from the old schools should be looking into that by going into the low-touch economy and getting to your customers through remote digitalizations. So that is the situation of Panera Bread. We move into the next example of Peloton. Now, this is basically what they call exercise machine equipment that you can have it at home, and from there you latch on to this group by using their own software and start doing your exercise. And it has turned out to be very fruitful for these organizations. And in 2020, they are doing a revenue of $1.6 billion as far as this concept is concerned. So this is just an example for you all to start thinking how you convert from what is before status quo into what is future that you can use. So all this depends on technology and how we utilize it to benefit the consumers. And the last one is this example of Beyond Meat, which is basically moving from a concept of Beyond, a brand called Beyond Burger, which is basically vegan food products in US, and with a revenue of last 2019 of $298 million. Also an indication of how you can tap on a new market of the vegetarians by having plant-based patties and delivering it to them through the new what we call logistics. So these are examples that has been quoted by the Board of Innovations that has propelled some organizations into this new era of low-touch economy. So those are examples that I hope will tickle your mind and see what you can do in as far as your organization is concerned. Use this example and see what can be done in order to move into the next phase. So the key takeaways, I think in my presentations, I've like to summarize would be that this COVID-19 pandemic is here to stay. Right? So as you can see from the graph that I've showed you, right into 2022 is going to stay with us for quite a while. And therefore, the new normal that is around us will be with us. And we need then to change the way we do our business because consumer behavior have changed. Second, almost all retailers are affected. And as a consequence of this COVID-19 pandemic, business cannot be as usual. This is something that I would like to emphasize to all of you. Business cannot be as usual. Therefore, we need to reinvent, we need to recalculate, and we need to reboot our business. This is a concept that I hope that most GM, CEOs, or thought leaders in your organization will really look into it. You really have to reinvent your business and reboot it so that it can propel your organization into a new direction. And lastly, understanding the low touch economy is a step to reinvent oneself. So recalculate your current business and embrace the new norm. And to embrace the new norm, you need to go digital. So if in your organization you are still not going digital yet, then I think you will miss the boat. And as research has shows in Malaysia, more than 50% of organizations are still not digitalized yet. And therefore, there are a lot of room for improvement for us to bring, all right, our industries towards the next level. So I hope I've shared my views with regards to this impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the retail scenarios. There are still lights at the end of the tunnel, as you can see from the data. We hope the PKPB or the CMCO that has been announced last month will not be prolonged so that consumers are allowed to move on with their life, to start gathering, to start going to shopping malls, to start playing things in the open, and therefore opening up a lot more retail premises. That is our hope, and hopefully the government will listen to some of the recommendations that has been made by the mall owners, because from what I see, footfall in the malls have declined tremendously, from as low as 30% to as high as 70%, which means to say that quite a number of malls are closing down. I mean, as late as last week in UK, they have announced, Arcadia have announced that they are going to close their change of shops that will result in about 15,000 of their headcounts being retrenched. And Arcadia is having brand names like Topshops, Dorothy Perkins, Burton's for men, right? And they are going to be declared bankrupt either this week or next week because of the low footfall that they have experienced in the outlets. And I'm told even in Malaysia, in our country, of late, there are talks that some of the supermarkets are selling out to what they call other groups internationally, because they are not able to sustain the business in as far as now is concerned. So things are not looking cozy in as far as a certain subsector of the retail, as per the data that I've shown just now, especially on the departmental store business, the specialty store business. Therefore, things needs to change. We have to embrace the low touch economy. All right, you have to embrace digitalizations. You have to embrace technology, and therefore you have to reinvent and reboot the future. I hope you have benefited from my views and thoughts with regards to this topic of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and hopefully your organizations or your outlets can prosper in the future. So thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, sorry about that. My mic was not working just now. Okay, I have to reload it again. Okay, thank you, Datuk, for delivering a captivating talk and sharing insights on the presented topic. I particularly like listening to the low-touch economy concept. Let us all pray for the swift recovery of the pandemic COVID-19. Okay, I have already posted the URL for the e-certificate registration on the chat room. So you may go to the chat room and try to click on the link and key in all the details required. Yeah? The e-certificate registration will open from 10:45 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Now, I would like to open the Q&A session to our participants. Please unmute your audio if you want to ask a question, and then you need to mute it again when Datuk will reply to your questions. Alternatively, you may also pose a question in the chat room, and I will read the questions to our guests. Okay, anybody has any questions? You can also post it on the chat program if you have a questions. Especially on the low-touch economy, it's actually an interesting concept, something that we can also learn from how this company is turning around their business during this pandemic. Okay, everyone is very shy to ask a question. We have a lot of representatives here from Aeon, from My Day, Alpro Pharmacy. We also have someone from Panasonic as well. You may have something, if not a question, maybe you can share your own experience as well. If you are really shy, you can post it on the chat room. I can read the questions on your behalf. Okay, so Puan Haniza has a question. You need to unmute first, Puan, your microphone.
Okay, can I share my question now?
Yes, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, Datuk. And thank you YBhg for this great session. Datuk.
Waalaikumsalam. Yeah.
We are, my company, Hilo Solution is in a skincare business.
All right.
Where we use agent system.
Okay.
So would love to hear your views about if you realize in Malaysia nowadays there's a lot of agent system going around with local brand or even international brand. Do you have any opinion on how this model of business can grow further with this COVID environment?
Yes, Paniza, thank you for the question. Yes, I have been in this cosmetic skincare business when I was in Yardley of London. And my experience in as far as the cosmetic business is concerned, for female especially, you need to have face-to-face contact in order to sell your product. That is why those days you have got beauty consultants split in most of the supermarkets or departmental store, all right, to get in touch with the customers. In the light of this new scenario, or rather the new low-touch economy, my advice would be to go on a testimonial program. When I say testimonial program means instead of using agency, all right, instead of using agency, you need to use influencer. Influencer means, all right, people that is known, noted, either beauticians, either skincare specialists, or even what you call film stars or even singers that has got or have got that potential of having a very good skin complexions. And these influencers, I would say, would be able to propel your product further than doing agencies. Agencies' role is basically to distribute your product, right? But this new concept of influencer or rather testimonial marketing is now very effective, what I call in the market. So I would recommend that you try to move towards that concept of testimonial or influencer marketing.
All right. Thank you so much, Datuk. Thank you for the good sharing and advice. Thank you so much, Datuk.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Puan Haniza. We have another question here from Suguna Silan Subramanian from the chat room. Dato, how will be the impact of low-touch economy on unemployment? That's number one. And number two, how should the manpower landscape be in the coming years? Those are the two questions, Dato.
Very tough question for me to answer. I don't have a crystal ball to help answer it definitely. But in as far as the labor situation is concerned, I would say that especially for the younger generations, the millennial as well as the Z generations, they are quite well prepared to move into the low-touch economy. Right? With their exposure towards digitalizations, I'm sure that they will be able to move into the next phase of operations. The question, the issue here would be whether they will be given the chance, whether they will be given the opportunity, all right, or will they be given the scope, all right, to improve themselves and to experiment themselves into the new future. So the most important thing as far as labor is concerned, empowerment is now towards the consumer, all right? The consumer now has got more empowerment, and once retailers or manufacturers or organizations understand this situation, I think they will start moving into this new era of technology and training their staff into embracing this digitalization concept.
Okay, thank you for your answer, and Suguna from Panasonic, actually, that was a question from a representative from Panasonic. Okay, any other questions? Okay, there's another question here from Encik Amir. Yeah, Ms. Guna just say thank you, Dato. Okay, this is a question from Encik Amir. Assalamualaikum, Dato. Do you foresee the relevancy of brick and mortar post-pandemic?
Thanks, Amir, for the questions. I would like to refer back to the statement made by the president of the Bumiputera Retailers Associations with regards to the differential between the e-commerce, which is the new economy, and the old economy. At the moment, in the retail scenario, only 5% of our business turnover are on e-commerce, and almost 95%, if not 90%, of retailers are in the brick and mortar. Therefore, the brick and mortar is still very relevant, all right, in our country. Except that my recommendation is that all these brick and mortar retailers has got to go into this concept, as they call it, online, offline scenario. You may be offline, but you will have to move towards the online scenario, which quite a number of organizations are already doing. Meaning to say that you have to digitalize, you have to move your product remotely instead of waiting for the customers to come to your organizations. Well, this has been done. You can see that quite a number of F&B outlets are already delivering foods, okay, and taking orders from customers direct, no interface, no face-to-face, all through remote ordering. So this is going to be the new norms, and I believe most retailers, all retailers will have to be doing that. I mean, big retailers like Tesco and all that, they are already doing that, experimenting with that. And I believe that in future, a lot of this flow of goods will be done through this e-commerce platform. So offline, online is going to be the theme of the day in as far as the future is concerned for brick and mortar retailers.
Okay, thank you, Datuk. That's from Cik Amir from Omni Charisma. We get another question from Mr. Eric. Good morning, Datuk. Seek your advice for any fast, tactical way to assist brick and mortar business to adapt easily on digital business. Mr. Eric is from Aeon.
That one I have to charge you a fee for asking that question and answering that questions. There is a lot of examples that I have given with regards to brick and mortar converting themselves into digital. First thing, my experience when I was running a retail organization is one has got to improve the infrastructure of the organization. Okay, so what is the meaning of improving the infrastructure of the organization? The organization themselves, from top, all right, to bottom, must, all right, prepare themselves towards these owners of digitalization. And whilst having the infrastructure, you need to train the personnel, all right, to man this infrastructure. And that is my experience when I was running the Panama organizations. All right, you may have the infrastructure, but your personnel may not be ready to jump and utilize the infrastructure. So while preparing for the infrastructure, we have to train our personnel to utilize the infrastructure. And these are my advice to most decision makers. All right, improve the infrastructure first. If you are not digitalized now, then you have to move to that. And while so doing, you have to upgrade, you have to retrain your personnel into moving up the ladder to be digitalized. So this is a long process. It may take 6 months, it may take 1 year, it may take 2 years. But the whole organization must moving with one pace in order to achieve this concept.
All right. With that last question answered, we are now at the end of our webinar session, and really appreciate all the questions given by the participants today. Once again, on behalf of the organizing committee, thank you to our guest speaker, Yang Berbahagia, Dr. Wahab Khalil, and all the participants for making the time to our webinar today. Before saying goodbye, I hope you do not mind to stay a bit online. So we would like to take few screenshots or photos of you online. And don't forget as well to register for your e-certificate. Okay, just okay, I'm gonna switch this off. Okay, they are actually at one time we have 100 participants, Datuk, for today's sessions. So that
congratulations.
Yeah. So that's including, we have our students from BBA in International Business Program, representative from various industries, which I already mentioned earlier on. Okay, so let me snap quickly some of the photos here. Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming. And I hope we'll be seeing you again in our next session. Oh, Prof, Dr. Jafar, our director. Yeah. You want to say something?
Prof Jafar is the most handsomest of all of us.
Prof, you want to say something?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hisham. Okay, very wonderful, good session and informative session, and hopefully we all of us we can gain and also gauge the information, and I would like to see more what we call effort from the what we call industry and also for the academician, so that we can work together and to enhance the what we call the idea of the low economy that you mentioned just now, Datuk. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Right.
Okay.
Good job, Datuk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congrats, Sham.
You can leave now. Just making sure that everybody is leaving the session. Okay, I'm just gonna stop recording and shut off this link.